Welcome to the Morning Smiles podcast. In these episodes, we discuss with other business professionals about the world of making conscious decisions, especially in social settings like conferences and work events. Morning Smiles isn't just a podcast. It's a movement from the visionaries behind Sober Life Rocks. Join us for stories and discussions that celebrate conscious living and, most importantly, keeping you smiling. Whether you're on your commute to or from work or just seeking some inspiration, we're here to make sure that you have a bright part of your day. So stay positive and remember, making the right choices today means smiling tomorrow. We are on this journey together with Morning Smiles.
Good morning. I'm Margy, co-founder of Sober Life Rocks. I want to welcome you today and let you know that you are not alone. How many of you have been in those situations where the alcohol-forward events at conferences or business parties have made you feel isolated? I know I have, but through this podcast, we're changing that narrative. We're here to create a community where individuals like you who choose not to drink or drink less can find camaraderie, support, and practical advice. So let's get the conversation started. It's my privilege to introduce you to Katherine Eitel Belt. She's the founder of Line Speak Communication Coaching and specializes in helping professionals communicate from the treatment room, the boardroom, the training room, or the stage with great clarity and inspiration. But more than that, I'm honored to call her my friend. Welcome, Katherine.
Oh, thank you, Margy. That's a great introduction. I love being here on this kind of old, fresh topic.
Absolutely.
It feels really cool. Thanks for having me.
Well, one of the reasons I'm so excited to have you on is because, gosh, a number of years ago, a good friend of mine told me that you were doing this exploration of alcohol-free brands and trying out different drinks. And I had never known anybody personally who's done that. And so I was like, I need to know. So spill the tea. Tell me all about that exploration and what you found, what you liked, what you didn't like.
Yeah. Well, the best news of all is that these options are everywhere now, and really growing. It's a huge growing industry. And I think it's indicative of a demand for sophisticated, fun, festive adult beverages that are alcohol free or, have a bend toward a healthier lifestyle. And so we've been having a lot of fun exploring that and starting to recognize, some of the brands out there. So I'll share some of our favorites. When we first started, one of the things we started with, we love kind of it all. We loved beer, specifically IPAs and interesting craft beers wherever we were traveling. We enjoy wine and the exploration of wine. We live in wine country, so it's that, we love that. But we also loved cocktails and spirits. And so in particular craft cocktails. So one of the first things we did, this was years ago on a dry January, 30-day, just mostly for our health, we found a brand called Curious Elixirs. And I love the name because they are these very interesting combinations that I'll say very lightly mimic other drinks we might be used to, alcoholic drinks like a margarita or maybe an old fashioned or something like that. So they have taken herbs and spices and juices and adaptogens and a lot of, like several of them have ashwagandha and things that we know in a healthy way will relax you and are calming, have a calming effect. So it's nice to have while you're cooking dinner, or maybe you would have had a cocktail, or in the evening if you're going to watch a movie or something. For us, it's been a great alternative because it has some very distinctive, interesting flavor combinations.
Was there a favorite that you have?
Well, I love they are numbered. So I like the number 2 and number 3 that are very citrusy and can kind of give you that little bit of a margarita kind of feel. It's not exactly, but that feel. And then there is a number 5 that is very cherry, smoky. It's very smoky. And so these are not super sweet. These are more maybe toward the savory kind of side, but for me, they're interesting. And that satisfies that need to have something other than water. We don't drink soda, so it doesn't leave you with a lot of options. And this has been a great one. So, but yeah, and some of them are very low calorie. But like the number 5, we had one last night. But they're 90 calories and a bottle is 2 servings. So, it's 200 calories for a bottle. So not all of these are calorie free, but alcohol free. And so, I think it's an interesting choice. The other thing we've been playing with is a straight liquor substitute, a spirits substitute called Ritual. And they make a tequila substitute, a whiskey substitute, a rum, and an aperitif. Maybe one other. No, there's no vodka, but I really love
That would be water.
Yes, that's right. That's right. That's right. I love the tequila. I put it in a lime LaCroix or a grapefruit LaCroix. Sometimes I'll salt the rim. And that it's a very peppery flavor. It's zero alcohol, but it has that bite sort of a tequila. And so that's been fun to play with. And I've seen them now at Bevmo and some of the liquor stores, which I totally understand. I want to say, by the way, Margy, that I get that people who are recovering from an addiction or in addiction recovery, this may not be an option. It may be too close to, a trigger. And going into a liquor store to buy it may be really too close to a trigger. And so I totally appreciate and respect that. You can order them online and, of course, have them delivered via Amazon or to your door from the company. So, and you can get on subscriptions for for Curious Elixirs, you can do a subscription. So every, 8 weeks or something, you get another shipment. So, so I think those are some good options. We have found an IPA that is non-alcoholic that is from Best Day Brewing. We've tried a bunch. And it's their West Coast IPA. And again, not calorie free, but alcohol free. And it is really, we think, really delicious, and we're pretty picky. So that one's good. But all the major brands have them now. Corona's got an alcohol free Corona if you want something light. Sierra Nevada, we found a hop water. It's called Hop Water through Lagunitas. And it just is like a water with a little bit of a hoppy flavor to it. So
I'm excited about those because when I first got sober 19 years ago, all they had was near beer, and near beer has alcohol in it.
Yeah.
So to see this whole industry springing up that is truly alcohol free.
I know. There's another brand. We haven't had too much of it at home. We haven't had any of it at home, called Seedlip, just like it sounds. Yeah. But I have seen a lot of Seedlip out at restaurants. So some non-alcoholic craft cocktails that use the Seedlip. Now, Seedlip, from my understanding, at least some of their offerings do have I think it's like 0.05. It's not much, but it is not 100% alcohol free. But I think those are, I think we're going to start to see more and more of those. And I think a lot of the people that are trained in creating craft cocktails are getting trained and sort of proud that they have these offerings that are in pretty glasses and pretty garnishes and are delicious and interesting and sophisticated without having alcohol. And so, it's a great way to feel like you're not, what's the word? I'm not feeling like I'm going without.
Yes.
But I'm making a healthier choice.
And I know a number of people who don't consider themselves, addicted, but want to cut back or want to just shift away from alcohol. And these are great ways to do that. And I even know people who are getting sober just through substituting it because
Right.
it's not that hard of a leap that way.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
But so what in the world a couple of years ago, you said many years ago, what got you even started going down this road?
Well, for us, for Tom and I, it wasn't an addiction problem as much as it was a habit that we had developed and fallen into that we enjoyed, but it wasn't yielding very good health results for us, especially as we've aged. And especially with the lifestyle I lead, which is traveling, lots of cocktail parties, and very easy to overindulge. And I just began to notice, especially as I got older, that the after effects the next day were noticeable in my, even in just taking my daily walk or in my focus. I just noticed the energy levels were different, focus was different, how I felt was different, and how I worked out was different when I did not have alcohol the night before, the day before. And so we just sort of began to experiment with, you know, what if we limited it to certain times? You know, maybe we didn't drink it all during the week, and only if we felt like it on the weekends or went somewhere that we wanted to, we might. We also looked at how do we limit where we're not going to have more than two, no matter when we are drinking, when we decide to. And just really, you know, ratcheting back. And that's when we began to reach out for how could we get the same sensation. You know, it's so funny, Margy. I'm currently on a 6-week alcohol-free plan with my physician. And so I was in the evening when we would sit down to relax and watch a show or something in the evening as we're winding down after dinner, I was substituting, instead of a glass of wine or a cocktail, a glass of hot tea. And I really enjoyed it. And I was so excited to have this replacement for that was so helpful. And then my physician said, well, I really want you to stop drinking liquids a few hours before bed because I've been wearing an Oura ring and monitoring my sleep, and it was interrupting my sleep. I was having to get up in the night and go to the bathroom. So when he said that, I'm like, oh my gosh, now my tea's taken away. And
Right.
what it revealed was that I need something for I have the kind of personality that my hands want to do something. Well, even at the movies, like I chew on a straw, like there is something about that habit or that, I don't know what it is. It's relaxing for me. And so now I'm exploring what are things I can do with my hands that don't require a lot of concentration, but is there something that I can do? And Laura Nelson said, you know, we have some, it's called, I can't remember what she called it, but it's like a Play-Doh for adults. And she said, yeah. And she said, it's a very silky, not sticky, but you know, silky Play-Doh kind of thing that smells like tropical or mountain breeze or citrus or whatever. So it has these like wonderful smells, and it has this, and she said a lot of the people that come to her crafting store, she said, I can't keep it in stock because for people like you who want something in their hand, other than, you know, a glass of wine or liquid, it gives them something to do to relax. And so I think it doesn't always even have to be a non-alcoholic drink. It might be that people were able to explore what is it really filling, and could we fill it with something else, you know, that would be a healthier choice. So just
Do you know, in sobriety, I actually started knitting
oh yeah.
for exactly that reason. And I brought
Mhm.
my knitting with me everywhere that I was going to be sitting, going to AA meetings, just sitting in front of the sofa, sitting on an airplane for just that reason, just because
Yes.
having something to do
Yes.
kind of relieved that um, kinetic energy
Yes. Yes.
and
So
relax. Yes.
it's an exploration of and an intention, you know, that you want to feel a certain way.
Yes.
And so what would support you in creating that for yourself?
Well, I will definitely put the alcohol-free brands that you mentioned in the show
Yes.
notes, and I will check with Laura and see if we can't get the name of that adult Play-Doh put into the show.
Yes, yes. I wish I could remember. She told me she's going to send me some, so I'm excited to
Yeah.
receive it. And also, Tom has an article that he's going to share with us when he heard I was going to be on this podcast. He said, I have an article that has all the recommended brands for non-alcoholic beverages and where to get them. So I'll see if I can get that article so you can link to it as well.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah.
So, Katherine, because we're friends, you've also shared with me some things about your association with a recovery community.
Mhm.
And I wanted to invite you in any way that you feel that you want to share some of that with our listeners, because I think it's important that people understand the context, not only of your making healthier choices in what you drink for yourself, but also the bigger picture.
Yeah. So I have a son, my youngest son, who is in recovery for an opiate addiction and doing very well. I'm thankful and grateful and glad and happy to report.
Yes.
But it has been a 12-year struggle. Basically, he lost his 20s. And he was an elite athlete and was injured in his sport severely. And through that, or sort of the back end of that, was prescribed some opiates, in particular, the Oxycontin.
Mhm.
And I wasn't very aware, wasn't really knowledgeable very much about drug addiction. And so before we knew it, he was addicted. And then it became a train we couldn't stop. And it eventually devolved into a heroin addiction. That's typically what happens. And so he's had a lot of consequences for that through a 10, 12-year addiction. And it's been a journey for our whole family for his recovery. It's all the recovery has been him.
Yes.
All of the work has been him, all of the choices have been him, and they still are every day. But why I think it has impacted me in terms of wanting to support this organization, wanting to support a new normal at meetings, is that I have learned through him and through a lot of the people that have helped him and the community that he now rests in, is that when they're put in situations, like he's now back in the workforce, he's now back developing friendships and dating on the dating scene again. And he said, I have to develop an entirely new relationship with restaurants. I have to develop an entirely new relationship with business dinners or business cocktail parties or, all of these things. And he said, as you said earlier, it's very isolating and I get very nervous. I have to really work on my nerves before I go in because I'm nervous that something is going to trigger me, something's not going to go well for me. And he said, I have avoided some things that probably would have been good opportunities for me, but I did not feel quite ready or that I would be supported. So I think anybody who is listening to this podcast is likely either in a similar recovery situation and is looking for support, or like me, who understands through however you came to the understanding that people who are in that community, I think anybody listening to this podcast would want to do, at a minimum, would not want to do anything inadvertently that would not support people fighting that fight.
Yeah.
Right? We would not want to do anything inadvertently not to support people fighting that fight, because if you've had someone you love in that fight, you know how hard they fight every single day to make different choices and to live a different kind of life. And so I want to support this because Austin's not in my industry, but if he were, I want to be part of creating a culture where he doesn't ever have to not come because he's nervous, he'll feel isolated, or he would be treated differently or feel like an outsider. And so I'm very excited about what you and Laura have created, because I know I would want that for him. And I know that I just want to do whatever I can so that anyone like Austin that is in our industry would feel supported by me and supported by my choice of words, by my comments, by just
Yeah.
by me in general, so.
That is so beautiful. I mean,
Mhm.
you couldn't have put it any better, Catherine. And I can relate. I mean, when I go to a restaurant and the waiter comes around, can I take your order? Or, here's the wine list. There's that part of me that doesn't even want to say, what non-alcoholic drinks do you have?
Yes.
If somebody says, what vegan options do you have? Or what gluten-free options do you have? I don't think that there's any shame associated around that.
Right.
But somehow saying, what non-alcoholic drink options do you have, has some baggage with it.
Mm.
And
Mhm.
so that's just one instance
Yeah.
what
And
it's
you
like.
can imagine a young person, a young professional,
Yes.
um, it's sort of outside the normal culture, especially at a convention where there are a lot of salespeople and people that are very steeped in the alcohol culture. I mean, we
Yes.
know 85% of Americans working are drinking. And so there's no judgment about that. I'm just saying that that is the norm. And
Yes.
so, it's easy for people in recovery to feel outside of that norm. And
Yes.
luckily, though, I really do believe, Laura and I were together just recently. We went to dinner and we went to a tapas place, Spanish tapas, and we asked, and the waitress said, "Oh, absolutely, it's on page 3." It was like a cocktail menu. On page 3, we have a lot of delicious options. She said, "I can tell you exactly how they're made, and we've got some really interesting ones." And so, and one of them or several of them were with seed lip, and she said, and they came back and said, "We just wanted to make sure that you knew that on these there is a 0.05,
Oh, that's
and
amazing.
yeah, and we were like, how nice, how nice that they took it seriously and there was no judgment and it was just like a normal order,
Yeah.
So I think there is a change afoot, and I think you guys are leading that or sort of getting that inside the dental industry, and I'm excited about it. I think there's a
Well,
lot of people that are going to benefit from this.
let's brainstorm together, being as how you are a sober wingman,
Yeah,
ways
yeah,
ways that a sober wingman can show up in those moments to support people who they don't even know are in the room.
right.
So let's take that restaurant. Let's take, 15 people have gone to dinner somewhere and we're at a restaurant. What do you think about the idea of being a sober wingman, starting out by asking the waiter in very
That's
loud
exactly what came to my mind.
like,
Like, what
what
if
do you
we
have?
started the conversation? Yeah.
Yes. What do you have that's
Mean,
non-alcoholic?
imagine even if I was interested in ordering a glass of wine, but I said, I think I'm going to have a glass of wine, but I'm curious for anyone in our group that might want non-alcoholic. What choices do you have for them? Right? Or
Yes.
something like that.
Yeah,
And so I think just bringing it into, it's just as normal as ordering something with alcohol, and what do we have available? Or even when you're choosing a restaurant, maybe just assuming that those people would likely be in a group like that and finding an option that had those, because there are restaurants without them.
yep.
And so maybe a safer, better supportive choice would be to find a restaurant that had them and
Absolutely.
then go. Yeah. No,
Now, what about at conference, cocktail parties? Because those are places that,
yeah, they're
quite
hard.
frankly, you go into these rooms with the little black bar, and
Yeah.
there
Yeah.
really aren't that many choices. So for me, one of the things that's been a real barrier is somebody will walk up to a group of 2 or 3 of us and say, "Hey, I'm headed to the bar. Can I get you anything?" And I'll always say something simple like club soda and a lime. And quite frequently, I get "Is that all?"
Mhm. Right. That
So,
just feels heavy with a judgment. It may or may not be, but I'm sure interpreted by someone, especially someone in recovery, that
yeah,
gets interpreted as a judgment. And so I think just it's like being sensitive to any kind of cultural shift.
yep,
It doesn't mean that we've ever intentionally been doing things, but when our awareness is heightened that people have been alienated inadvertently by things that we just weren't aware of, it's just, could we heighten our awareness about saying, great, great, what about for you? Just moving on, no, it doesn't need a comment. It doesn't,
Yep.
And it just be the same, yeah.
So I have a sober wingman friend of mine, and when I said that the first time, and she knows that I'm sober,
Mhm.
she said, "Oh, let's go up together and see if we can't find you something more fun."
Oh, oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I just felt like I wasn't just offering the easiest, simplest thing just to like, you know, I wanted to make myself as small as possible so I
Oh,
wasn't a bother. Versus she just grabbed me and she's like, "No, let's go get you something more fun."
yeah. And there
So
are, and there
there are,
are,
yes,
yeah. And yet maybe someone, I mean, I've often ordered a club soda and lime at one of those little black bars because I just wasn't either in the mood or I had a speech the next morning and had decided I wanted my energy to be as high as it could be. So I wasn't going to drink that night at the cocktail party. And I know a lot of speakers like that. I remember Paul Homily telling me, I rarely go to dinner, but I never drink before I'm going to speak the next day because I want to be 110%, so
yeah,
I think it's not that unusual for us to make choices in business. And I think club soda and lime is just absolutely fine. And I think something more interesting is fine. And I think a different choice is fine. I think that's the idea, is like, how could we just normalize it? And I just believe we're going to see more and more of it that are not, and maybe I was going to say that are not making the choice because they're in recovery. They're making the choice for other reasons. And maybe that will lead to less people in recovery, you
yeah,
know, it
yeah,
could, it could. And I think there is, I mean, there's just so much research to show that it does not have enormous health benefits to drink a lot of liquor in your life. And so, you know, I think a lot of people are taking inventory around that and at least reducing it so that we can live our best lives and have longevity and have a great long career. And so, and I think that what you guys are um, organizing and your long range vision for this group to be able to shift what we actually show up to there at the meetings is going to be phenomenal. I think
yeah,
I remember it wasn't anything to do with dentistry, but I'd gone to a conference years ago. It was a much larger conference than most of ours, but they had little areas like you might have an area for a photo booth. You know how you would have an area and have all the props and the backdrop and the cameras
mhm,
all set up. Well, they had little areas that, they had a little cornhole area, and then they had a little, was just like a quiet area with couches, and they
yes,
had another area that was bocce ball, and then they had the dance floor, or I don't know if it was a dance floor, but it was like music and the bar and everything. And so there were all of these different choices for how we might show up for the cocktail hour and network together. And you could you could have your choice of,
yes,
if you wanted to be in with the music, then that was there. And if you didn't, then there were other choices. Fun things to do. It didn't have to be the fun crowd and the boring crowd.
right.
It was like the fun, different kinds of fun, And so,
Absolutely. And
yeah,
quite frankly, we're there for the networking. And so when we find like-minded people doing like-minded things,
yeah,
what better way to network?
yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's a recontextualizing of, do I have to have alcohol to have fun? And do I have to have alcohol to network? And I think it's good to know that you don't. You could, but you don't have to. And I think as meetings begin to, offer non-alcoholic beverage bars, and other alternatives to the party crowd, then I think we'll see people making different choices and getting healthier
Yeah.
around.
I mean, I've talked to a lot of people like you who do drink alcohol, but would love to switch to something else after a first drink.
Yes, exactly.
And so I
Exactly.
think that would
And
be,
still be in the crowd, still be
yeah,
having fun and doing that. And
yeah,
I think it's happening. I do. And I think we're going to start to see all kinds of partnerships with maybe some of these non-alcoholic brands, or maybe I know schools that are training their craft cocktail
yeah,
bartenders in how to, get uh creative with these non-alcoholic craft cocktails. And I think we'll probably, see some that want to show off and
yeah,
promote their bar. I've heard of actual bars opening up
That
that
are
don't serve
just,
alcohol. Yeah.
yes, yes,
And so, I mean, I think that's such an interesting concept. And there's lots of like pregnant mothers and people who may drink alcohol at other times of their life, or they're training for a marathon, or
yep,
so at that
situational,
moment
yep,
in time, they're trying to they're making a different choice.
yes.
So, yeah.
We went on a cruise, my husband and I went on a cruise about a year ago, and it was a small boat. Only there was 30 guests on the boat.
Oh,
So we needed to make sure that we were going to have, non-alcoholic options beyond
yeah.
soda. So we talked to the salespeople ahead of time and they said, absolutely, we'll make sure that the bartenders know and stock accordingly. Well, every night he would make a signature cocktail and a signature non-alcoholic cocktail, which was made with all ingredients that were not alcohol substitutes.
So it wasn't at
So that
all.
it wasn't triggering to us,
Yes.
but was still delicious.
Yes.
He would run out of the non-alcoholic options because everybody else in the boat liked them so much.
How
That's what they
interesting.
wanted. Hmm. So we would have to hoard ours to make sure we got a couple before he
How
ran
fun
out.
is that? Someone was telling me they went to a wedding and they had their signature cocktails in both an alcoholic form and a non-alcoholic form at the wedding. So I just think there's a movement underfoot, and I think it's outstanding. And I think you're just at the beginning as pioneers in our specific industry for just bringing what society has already kind of got stirring.
Yep.
And bringing it into the dental industry. And I think it will be just phenomenal. And
Thank you.
I'm so happy to be part of the founding,
Well, we are thrilled to have
foundational
you.
piece.
Yeah, we're thrilled to have you as a founding member. My gosh, what an amazing addition you are to our group. And, just so that listeners know, yes, Sober Life Rocks has started in the dental area. However, our view is that this is going to spread and we will be moving Sober Life Rocks into other verticals as we get better established. And yes, we are looking to partner with alcohol-free brands. We've reached out to some, but if anybody's listening and would like to partner with us, please reach out to us as well.
Yeah.
So, Katherine, as we wrap things up, I've got a couple of quick fire questions for you. Are you ready?
Okay. These are always nerve-wracking.
um, all right, Katherine, here's a rapid fire question.
Okay.
What piece of advice would you give your younger self, either professionally or personally?
I think my advice would be the same, professionally and personally. And that would be to trust my instincts about what is right for me and be brave to follow that. I think early in my personal life, I did things I thought I was supposed to do or that society expected, and professionally similar, what were others doing or what was I told to do? And often it didn't feel right. And I learned eventually that if it felt hard and bad, it wasn't my work or it wasn't my path, it wasn't my choice. If it felt maybe like hard work, but it felt light and good, then that was closer. I was closer to my path. And so I wish I would have known that a little earlier, but I also feel like timing is kind of always perfect. So I don't regret it, but I think if I could change something and have it happen earlier, it would be that to trust my instincts around what's my path. Yeah.
Great message. All right, we've talked a little bit about sort of unwinding at the end of the day, but overall, what is your favorite way to de-stress?
Yeah, I love theater and movies or good series. And so we often, relax with something that we're going to watch on TV, but I'm also a reader. I'm in a book club that I absolutely love. And so reading is a great way for me to relax. I actually have a very carefully crafted morning routine that is very special to me, and I'm disciplined about it. Um, but in the evening, I'm a little more. I kind of go with, do I want to walk? In the summer, we're able to just go for a walk. In the winter, it's usually curling up by the fire with a book or a good movie with my husband.
Excellent, love it. What superpower would you have if you could?
Ooh, ooh, superpower. Uh, Oh, no one's ever asked me that question. I think to be able to know what others, what they need and what would help them the most. I think if you could look inside and look through what they're saying and look through what they're doing and get to what would really help them the most, and you could instantly know that, that would be an amazing superpower.
Yeah. As coaches, you and I ask lots
Yeah.
of questions to try to uncover that. It would sure be nice to know what it really was.
Like the X-ray vision, X-ray vision for what would help this person the most that I could say or that I could model, or that I think that would be amazing.
Awesome.
And also to lose weight and still eat chips and salsa. That would be a great superpower.
Well, I shouldn't ask this question given that you're on a 6-week diet, but what is your very favorite dessert?
Churros and ice cream.
Oh, delicious.
Or maybe a caramel sauce, one of those, on the churro.
Yeah.
I love little donuts, little really well-crafted donuts and churros. I love those. Yeah.
Awesome. Anything else that you want to share with our listeners before we sign off?
Just I would say, if I remember a time where I thought, oh, I could never let go of my wine. It's too much of a pleasure for me, or a beer with my husband, or I can't imagine having pizza without a beer, or, Mexican food without a margarita. I can't imagine. And no, and isn't balance good in life? And, and I still think all that's fine. I would just say if you're feeling like that and kind of just not sure I would say experiment with it. Experiment with, could I find a way to get the same pleasure in a healthier way and still have, if I go to a wedding and want to drink a glass of champagne, then I can still do that, So that I would say, stay in the conversation, experiment with it, and just see if the results that you achieve aren't beneficial enough to maybe make a change or a modification. I just think I waited too long thinking, oh, I could never let that go and still enjoy a great meal or a great conversation. And it turns out I can. And so now I'm freed up to make the choices that really do build the best life for me. So, yeah.
Well, Katherine, you've been a phenomenal guest. My favorite thing of all is the idea of being a sober wingman by finding ways to make other people feel more comfortable. And I am so grateful to you for sharing that and for really sharing all the wisdom that you have today.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm so excited and so proud of you guys for what you're doing. And I just wish you all the best. And for everyone out there that's, trying to be sober or live a soberish life. I think we just come together and support each other. Yeah. So good. Congratulations, Margy, on what you're doing. It's phenomenal.
Thank you. And for all of those out there, may you have morning smiles when you get up the day after not drinking.
Absolutely.
Thank you for joining us on Morning Smiles podcast. Remember, every decision you make today shapes the smiles of your tomorrows. Make sure to subscribe to our channel and follow us on social. No one needs to do this alone. Here's to making choices that brighten your world and your morning smiles.